What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Jacob with Jacob Fitness Ladder. In the last video, we talked about how to determine how many calories that you need. I know a lot of people feel like, well, 11 days is not quick enough to lose 1 pound. Now, mind you, it's not going to stay that way. The more I lift weights, the lower my body fat gets. And not to mention, the more active I become, the more calories I will be able to eat. So, I mean, I will change it over time, but right now, that's where it will stay. Today, we're going to talk about how to divide your calories up between carbs, proteins, and fats. I'm going to discuss them in order of importance to me. I want you to remember that I am not a nutritionist, and do this at your own risk. Do this at your own risk, because sometimes when people have health conditions, it could factor into how they eat, what types of food they need to focus on. Me personally, I'm a fairly healthy individual. There are some things that I try to avoid for health reasons, but all in all, there are a lot of things that I can eat. So without further ado, take a look. Alright people, let's get down to business about macros and how I divide them up based on my research and experience. Before we proceed, we need a few things. First, we need our total daily energy expenditure from last video. In my case, it was 21.9 calories. We need to remember our chosen calorie deficit. Mine was 305 calories. We need a calculator. I guess I should have warned y'all on the last video about that. And let's make sure we put on our thinking caps. I know I haven't worn mine since 2nd grade. Here's some new information to keep in mind. 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 calories. 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories. 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. I will discuss the significance of those 3 throughout the video. Lastly, I'm using the International Sports Science Association 1-2-3 method, but I modified to fit my needs. So what is the 1-2-3 method? The ISSA believes your macros should be divided up into 6 equal parts. By dividing your total daily energy expenditure by 6, you will arrive at how many calories are allotted for each part. Here's an example using my information. First, I want to talk about protein because for me, it is the biggest and most important piece of this puzzle. Without going into the complete science of protein absorption, here's a list of reasons why protein will be the most important part of my diet. First, it's imperative for cellular growth and repair. What that spells, for me, is a timely recovery after a good workout. It also means an increased metabolic rate due to increased muscular girth. If you're getting an adequate amount of protein on a calorie deficit, your muscles aren't broken down and used for energy. Again, you need your muscles for an increase in energy expenditure. That's key in keeping the weight off. Protein also has a high thermic effect, which means your body expends a lot of energy digesting and absorbing it. In plain English, more calories burned. Lastly, research is starting to show that it suppresses appetite. There are also things I need to look out for. First, too much of a good thing can be bad, but this rule applies to calories in general and not just protein. Next, out of all the macronutrients, protein is the most expensive per unit. Not only that, it can be a challenge to find an adequate protein source for most vegans and vegetarians. I will explain that a little more in a bit. But my biggest concern is the toxicity of high amounts of protein. It's a thin line because there are so many conflicting beliefs, while training loads make it difficult to determine protein needs. On the other hand, those with kidney disease knows it's a reality. Now, how should I determine my protein needs? If you recall earlier that the 1-2-3 method is made up of 6 parts. For me, protein makes up 2 of those 6 parts. That's a third of my calories. If you remember the results of my calories per part formula, multiplying that by the number of parts I have chosen, which is 2, I will conclude the amount of calories from protein I will take in daily. Here's my example. Now, if you want this information to be useful, it's best to convert calories to grams. 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories, right? So if you divide the amount of calories you devoted to protein by 4, your result will be your protein in grams. Here's my example. As you can see, I have compiled a list of foods that are considered high in protein. It's very important that I choose lean cuts of meat. The difference between 4 ounces of chicken breast and chicken wings are about 120 calories of fat, while the chicken breast still has more protein. Because protein is the most important part to me, I have to make sure I weigh all of my foods. Just because the package says 1 salmon fillet is 5 ounces doesn't mean it is. Now, of course, I'm going to supplement with protein powders and shakes. That's a given. But soy is not going to be one of those supplements. Those who avoid meat usually turn to soy as their primary protein source. Not only have I read some research on the dangers of soy, I have also seen it firsthand. But again, to each their own. Lastly, I want to avoid catabolism and start my muscle recovery before my workout even finishes. So branched chain amino acids are the way to go here. Not only that, it aids my performance in the gym. Okay, we have our protein squared away. It's time to move on to dietary fats. Dietary fats are very beneficial for your health. Let's go over some of these benefits. First, it's your body's secondary source of energy in a sense. It slows digestion, keeping me full longer. It helps with vitamin absorption. Simple enough. Lastly, It initiates hormone production, but the one I'm interested in is testosterone. Testosterone is important for muscular repair and growth as well as other things. Some of the things I should look out for includes the amount of calories packed into a small amount of food. It's easy to go overboard with fats, healthy or unhealthy. Since dietary fat is chemically similar to triglycerides, it's easily stored as such. The biggest hurdle with dietary fats are they are hard to identify, especially when used as sauces or cooking bases. Now that we know why, time to find out how much. Fat is going to be only one part of my diet. Multiplying the calories per part by 1 will get you the same amount of calories from fat I need. Here's my example. If you remember, 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. Talk about calorie dense. Again, you want to divide your chosen calories from fat by 9, and you will get the amount of calories from fat in grams. This is how I figured mine. I have listed some high-fat foods as well as if they are saturated or unsaturated. Choose unsaturated fats over saturated and trans fats for your health. Trans fats and saturated fats, to a lesser extent, have been shown to be detrimental to your arteries. Nonetheless, what this list can't show is that very few fatty foods are one particular type of fat. There's usually a ratio. You want to make sure you read the labels and make an informed decision. Even if something doesn't look like it has fat, it's always best to be sure. Junk food, processed foods, and fast foods are examples of those foods you don't know. Not only does it increase the amount of calories in that food, it's more often than not trans fats and saturated fats. Speaking of saturated fats, meat is usually high in it. That is the reason most people stay away from beef. I cannot stress enough, choose lean cuts of meat. Another important idea to think about is swapping the calories from protein with calories from fat. It's a pretty good strategy for those considered morbidly obese and are new to diet. It's also pretty smart for vegetarians and those worried about consuming too much protein. I'm sure this is what everyone has been waiting for, an open discussion about carbs. I know carbs have gotten a bad rep the past 2 decades and people are completely against eating carbs. Personally, I'm not, because I feel everything serves a purpose and you have to utilize everything for what they do best. Let's take a look at what carbs can do. It is your body's primary source of energy, including your brain. It is readily available for use. Some people will say, shouldn't you let your body use fatty acids or fat for energy? Isn't that more important than weight loss? It's not even close. For my second reason, it increases your performance. The minute you stop giving everything you got at the gym is the minute your progress stalls. If you want to go hard every time, get some glycogen and glucose in your body. Next, it aids in recovery. Your muscles are like a car. It needs gas to go, When you use up your gas, either fill up for your next travel or stay home. Consider carbs your gasoline. Listen up, because this one is important. Do not neglect fiber. Fiber is a type of carb that your body does not use for energy. Instead, it aids in digestion. Lastly, most carb-heavy foods are very affordable. Now, with that affordability of carbohydrates, other problems arise. Junk foods are also affordable. Discernment is key here. For this point, let's refer to the car analogy again. Gas is useless if you don't drive your car. Stay active, my friends. Lastly, there are some carbs that spike your insulin, dropping your blood sugar to below normal levels. That can elicit a feeling of fatigue, sleepiness, and hunger. That is what makes or break a diet. Now that we know what carbs can do, let's determine our needs. If I was planning to maintain weight, it would be 3 parts of my diet. Just like with fat and protein, if I multiply my calories per part by the amount of parts chosen, which is 3, I will get how the amount of carbs I need in calories. This is how many I need. I know you're probably thinking, that's a ton of carbs. Well, we're going to do something different this time. Since I'm trying to lose weight, I'm taking away some carbs. I have plenty to take away from. When I subtract my calorie deficit, the results from the last video, if you remember, from the carbs I need for maintenance, I have the starting point for my calories from carb intake. Here's my example. Okay, last step. Let's simplify it into grams. 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 calories, just like protein. Requiring the same formula, divide your allotted carbohydrates by 4, and you will have your carbohydrate needs per day. Here are my needs. Here are a list of foods that are high in carbs, as well as their glycemic index. The glycemic index is used to show how quickly your body responds with insulin to a particular food. If you remember, insulin lowers your blood sugar in order to process glucose and store glycogen where it needs to go. Simply put, the higher the glycemic index, the quicker your body uses and stores these carbs. A mistake most people make is they consider all carbs are equal. Try choosing low or medium glycemic foods for the majority of your carbs. Low is anything below 55, and medium is below 70. The energy from low or moderate glycemic carbs sustain you for longer periods, barring any medical condition. Don't just pay attention to the glycemic index. Know the amount of calories you're taking in. A calorie is still a calorie, whether it's good for you or not. You can still go over and it can still store as fat. With that being said, I recommend planning your carbs. Focus on what you have to do for the day. For me, on a weight loss journey, it's important for me to give it my all at the gym and to recover. So it's best that I plan most of my carbs around that. At this point in the journey, I don't really care if it's too late to eat carbs or whatnot. A calorie is still a calorie. Try to take a lot in from fiber too by slowly increasing your intake. Remember, your body doesn't use fiber for energy, thus it cannot store it. Plus, it's good for digestion. Carbs are also where most of the vitamins and minerals are. So when you decrease your calories from carbs, you'll want to supplement the vitamins and minerals you will not get in that process. Not as effective as the real deal, but something is better than nothing. Lastly, avoid junk food. Not only are they usually high glycemic, it's usually high in unhealthy fats and calories. With a margin of error so small for me, I'm going to avoid it completely while on this journey. Before we go, let's recap and refocus. Protein is most important for me, so I will have approximately 201 grams daily. I will take in about 44 grams of fat daily. My carb intake at the moment will be 226 grams, and I will plan them according to my day. All three may change as my calorie needs change. Learning what your body needs is very important. It is the key to eating right. If your body is craving something, think long and hard about what it could actually be craving and why. I don't have to worry about this one, but swap your calories from protein with your calories from fat if there are any concerns. It is imperative that you talk to your doctor if you have any concerns. Every professional has varying opinions, but it's up to you to make that final decision on whose belief system works best for your goals and your health. Try to pay less attention to taste. Yes, you want to enjoy what you eat, but you also want results. That's when you have to decide what's most important to you, a moment of pleasure or success. Modify your eating habits as needed. Remember, as your body changes, your needs will change too. Consistency is key to accomplish anything in this life. There will be many challenges and trials along the way, but you are the only one that can be that rock that doesn't erode when the changing tide crashes upon the shore. That brings me to my last point. It's a lifetime commitment. If you're only doing this for instant gratification, whether you succeed or not, you will forever seek that instant gratification. But when you make this a lifetime commitment, when you make this your lifestyle, there will always be sunlight at the horizon. Yeah, it sounds similar to instant gratification, right? The difference is, when you are focused on that sunlight at the horizon, any given moment, you get to look back at the darkness and see how far you've come and appreciate what you've accomplished. That's it for me today. I'll catch y'all on the next video.